Do you remember our story from last night, little one? Moses and the people of Israel were getting ready to leave Egypt after living there for so very long. God had shown Pharaoh 10 amazing signs to let his people go free. The last sign made Pharaoh finally say, "Yes, you can go." So Moses gathered all the families, mommies, daddies, grandmas, grandpas, and lots of children just like you. They packed their things and started walking toward the land God promised to give them. It was like the biggest family trip ever. Everyone was so happy to be free at last. Moses was leading all these families on a wonderful adventure. There were hundreds and hundreds of people walking together, so many that you couldn't count them all. The children were skipping and playing as they walked. The grown-ups were carrying their belongings and talking excitedly about their new home. God was taking such good care of them. During the day, He sent a fluffy white cloud to show them which way to go and to give them shade from the hot sun. At night, the cloud became a warm, glowing light, like a gentle campfire in the sky. "Look," the children would say, pointing up. "God is right there with us." Everything felt safe and peaceful as they followed God's special cloud. But one morning, someone looked back and saw something scary. "Oh no!" they called out. "Look behind us!" Far in the distance, there was a big cloud of dust getting bigger and bigger. It was Pharaoh and his army with their horses and chariots, coming very fast to catch them. Pharaoh had changed his mind again. "I want my workers back," he had said angrily. Now all the families stopped walking and looked around nervously. In front of them was a huge sea of water that went on as far as they could see. Behind them was Pharaoh's army getting closer and closer. The mommies hugged their children tight. The daddies looked worried. "What can we do?" everyone wondered. "We can't swim across this big sea, and we can't go back." The sea was so wide and so deep, much deeper than a bathtub, deeper than a swimming pool, deeper than anything the children had ever seen. The water was dark blue and made big whooshing sounds as the waves splashed on the shore. Some of the people started to feel very scared. "Moses," they said, "why did we leave Egypt? Now we're trapped. The army is coming closer, and we have nowhere to go." Even some of the brave grown-ups felt their hearts beating fast, like little drums in their chests. The children could hear the sound of horses' hooves getting louder. Clip-clop, clip-clop, clip-clop. It seemed like there was no way out of this scary situation. But Moses stood up tall and looked at all the worried faces around him. His eyes were calm and peaceful, and he spoke in a gentle voice that made everyone feel a little better. "Don't be afraid," Moses said with a big smile. "Just wait and see what wonderful thing God will do for us today." Then Moses looked up at the sky, where God's special cloud was floating above them. He closed his eyes and talked to God, just like you talk to Mommy and Daddy. Moses knew in his heart that God had a plan. God had taken care of them before with all those amazing signs in Egypt. Surely God would take care of them now too. A warm feeling started to fill Moses' heart, like drinking hot cocoa on a cold day. But the people were still worried because they could see the army getting closer and closer. The dust cloud was so big now that it looked like a storm coming their way. "Moses," Some people said, "Are you sure God will help us? The water is so deep and those horses are so fast." Even though Moses had told them not to worry, some of their tummies still felt fluttery, like butterflies were dancing inside. The children moved closer to their mommies and daddies. Everyone kept looking back at the approaching army, then at the big sea, then back at the army again. It was like being stuck between two walls with no door to go through. But Moses kept praying and trusting that God would show them the way. Then something absolutely amazing happened. God told Moses, "Hold up your walking stick towards the sea." So Moses lifted his staff high in the air, and suddenly, whoosh, a mighty wind started to blow. But this wasn't a scary wind that knocked things down. It was a special wind that God sent to help them. The wind blew and blew all night long, and as it blew, the most wonderful thing began to happen. The water started to move apart. It was like God was gently pushing the sea to the left and to the right, making a dry path right down the middle. The water stood up like tall walls on both sides, but the ground in between became completely dry, not even muddy. "Look!" all the children shouted with excitement. God made us a road through the sea. Moses smiled big and said, "Come on, everyone. Let's walk across on God's special path." What a joyful parade it was. All the families walked safely across the sea on the dry ground that God had made for them. The children laughed and danced as they walked between the tall water walls. "This is the most amazing road ever," they giggled. The mommies and daddies sang happy songs praising God. Even the sheep and goats walked across safely. When they reached the other side, everyone cheered and hugged each other. They were safe. Then God let the water flow back together again, and Pharaoh's army could not follow them anymore. The people danced and celebrated on the shore. "God saved us," they sang. "God loves us so much." Moses and his sister Miriam led everyone in the most beautiful thank you song to God. Everyone felt so happy and grateful in their hearts. Sweet little one, just like God made a safe path through the scary sea for Moses and all those families, God always makes a way to help us when we're worried or afraid. Even when things seem impossible, God's love is bigger than any problem we might face. Now close your sleepy eyes and dream about walking on God's special path through the sea, knowing that God loves you and will always take care of you. Good night, precious child. Sleep tight in God's loving arms.